Hello, algebra students. I wanted to compare and contrast some similar inequalities with you so you can avoid a common student error. So let's look at the first line here. You see two inequalities that look very, very similar. First says 12k is greater than or equal to negative 12. Next example. Negative 12k is greater than or equal to 12. All right, let's start with how we would solve these. So looking at the left example, if I wanted to isolate k, get him by himself, I would need to get rid of this 12. Since it's multiplying, I will do the opposite. I will divide. And I can do whatever I want as long as I do it to both sides. Now, that's similar to the other inequality here. And I'm going to go back and forth just so I can show you the difference here. Again, we see a number shoved up against k. But this time, instead of it being 12, it's negative 12. And so if I want to isolate k, get it by itself, I'd still have to divide. But this time I'm going to divide away negative 12. And of course, I can do whatever I want as long as I do it to the other side. So first step was really similar. Now let's look at what our new equivalent inequalities will be. Multiplying by 12 and dividing by 12 are opposites. They cancel. I get k. That's the left-hand side. And on the right-hand side, negative 12 divided by 12 is negative 1. Now, let's talk about the inequality symbol. We learned that when you multiply or divide by a negative, and I'm talking about the change you make, guys. If the number that you divide on both sides is negative, then you flip the sign, but we divided by positive 12. And so you aren't going to flip the sign this time. I know there's a negative dividing. I know there's a negative answer, but the number that I divided by, the balance change, was not negative. And so I will not see a sign flip on my inequality symbol. But compare that to the next one. In this example, I did divide both sides by a negative. And whenever you multiply or divide both sides by a negative, you do what's called negating the inequality. You flip the relationship. So even though everything else is kind of going to look the same, multiplying and dividing by negative 12 are opposites. They cancel. K is alone. 12 divided by negative 12 gives me negative 1. Because I divided by a negative, I'm actually going to flip the inequality symbol that time. Okay, so really the distinction I just want you to make is that it has to be the number that you're moving around being negative for it to flip. So same thing here. P divided by 8 is less than negative 2. If I want to get rid of this 8, I'm going to do the opposite. I'm going to multiply the left-hand side of the inequality by 8. I can do whatever I want as long as I do it to both sides. Multiplying and dividing by 8 are opposites. They cancel. P is alone, just like I wanted. Whoa. Struggling, guys. P is alone, just like I wanted. And let's see. Negative 2 times 8 is negative 16. And I multiplied, yes, but it was by a positive number, not a negative number. And so it will not affect my sign. Let's look at the next example, though. In the next example, P is dividing by negative 8. Same thing, it's dividing, so I'll get rid of it by multiplying. And of course, since I want to get rid of a negative 8, I'll multiply by negative 8. And I can do whatever I want as long as I do it to both sides. So I'll multiply the other side by negative 8 as well. And now, yes, I have done something that affects the inequality symbol. I made a change that negates both sides of my equation. It changes the signs on both sides, and so it will flip the inequality symbol. So yes, multiplying and dividing by negative 8 will cancel, giving me P. But instead of having less than, I'm going to have greater than. In this case, negative 16. All right, you guys. So really keep track of what you're doing versus what's already in the equation. I don't care if there's a negative anywhere. I care if you choose to multiply or divide both sides by a negative. That's when we see the flipping. All right, you guys, proud of you. Happy learning.